Well, there are most of the times 2, 3, or 4 different companies who suggest a kind of story. I personally look at it and most of the time think it's cheesy, but then again, I'm not really a video lover. To the contrary, I would say.
We think of it as a necessary evil.
Yeah, it's a necessity. Actually, even nowadays, there is a point to do videos simply because there is so many people looking for it on YouTube, for example. But I remember like 10 years ago, there was no point at all to produce a video.
And it cost so much money
back
then.
Back then it was even tripled. Like price-wise, it was 3 times.
It was shot on film, and then you went into digital, and you had the Sony Betamax and stuff, and then you had to rent freaking studio equipment for a shitload of money, right? And it was always like freaking expensive, and you never knew who got to see the video, but now afterwards you can see all of them online, so it was all worth it in a way.
In a way, yeah, but nowadays there is YouTube. There is a chance to watch it if you only want. If somebody really particularly looks for it and searches for it, he finds it, he watches it and enjoys it. Perfect. But now I remember the days when you had to pay to be played on MTV, for example. What a shitty time it was. So only people who had big record companies were actually allowed to be played on MTV, because when you didn't play, you're not being played. When you didn't pay, you're not being played. And this was not very fair. The situation was fucked up, so to say. Very unfair to the rest of the world if we take in account that US America, for example, would always have 10 or 20 times more budget than the rest of the world. So I personally was completely pissed off, even though we were being played on MTV, but not as much as I liked. And my personal favorite bands, like my old heroes, you've never seen them again. Because sure, I'm quite sure that Judas Priest, Kiss, or Iron Maiden, Metallica, all these bands, they didn't pay a penny. You know what I mean? They were just too successful to actually not being played. And the rest of the world, like the second league of the world, like for example ourselves, you just had to pray for it or pay, That was not very nice. I think 20 years ago I hated it.
In fact, there's very few videos that kick me on so much in correlation to the track they represent, that I wouldn't really like my own imagination of a track that I listen to and prefer it to the visualization that I'm being offered by a director, or someone who came up with the script and the story, and some videos actually suck in comparison to my fantasy, because you wouldn't imagine what I fantasize about sometimes.
No, you wouldn't.
There's a few rare ones, like The Rose with Bette Midler or whatever, like the original movie when she sings it or whatever, where the visualization is like top spot on. And yeah, I have that thing with videos. I go like, it could have been different. It could have been like that. It could have been like that. And there's a few classic videos that are just amazing and great, but too few. And I always go like, why spoil everything you did? Like, you're already expressing magic through speakers, and you can't grip it. Like, you see a fire when you put it on like this, you can see it, The music you can only hear, you cannot make a clear picture of it, whatever. And then you put a video on it, and force people seeing things to that track. If that's appropriate, that's always very questionable for me. So I've never really liked videos, except for You're the One That I Want with John Travolta, and Her, that was like the best video.
Olivia?
Yeah. Back then.
Only because back then Olivia Newton-John looked so wow. Huh?
No, not because of that. It was because